Okay, so part two is going to be looking at the settlement of the actual Americas. So first of all, you've got Portugal. They explore America first. In the year 1500, Pedro Alvarez Cabral goes from from Portugal down to Brazil. And then he continues on to India. The whole goal was to go to India in the first place. But what he ended up doing was going to Brazil first, kind of by mistake. Well, that mistake gave Portugal a claim to American lands. So the Treaty of Tordesillas that would come along later on was directly a result of the fact that Portugal claimed some of South America, while Spain also claimed some of the Americas. So the Treaty of Tordesillas that created the line of demarcation, splitting the Americas down really this way, was established because Cabral had given Portugal a claim to the Americas when he landed down in modern-day Brazil. And then he goes home and trades goods to India, so Portugal is still in the game in terms of trading, and trading Asian goods. All right, so now let's look at Spain exploring America. There are a lot of Spanish explorers, so let's look at them one by one. So first of all, they were referred to as conquistadors. Spanish explorers are referred to as conquistadors, and conquistadors had three goals, the three G's: gold, God, and glory. They were trying to do one of these three things. They were trying to gain wealth or gold for themselves and for the king. They were trying to spread religion to the world, to the New World, and their religion was Catholicism, and they were trying to get personal glory. They were trying to be heroes. So between those three things, these conquistadors went to a lot of different places in the New World and did some good and did some damage. So Amerigo Vespucci, let's start with him. He has a couple of different expeditions. The first is 1499 to 1500. He goes from Spain to South America and the Caribbean. And he's the first guy to really say, whoa, wait a minute, hold up, guys. We are not in Asia. This is not India. Why are we calling these people Indians? We're not in India. We are in an entirely new world, and he referred to it as the New World, that hasn't been stepped on by Europeans before. So he was the first person to recognize that, which is why this map maker and explorer has the Americas named for him. America is named for Amerigo, not Columbus, because Columbus didn't realize that he was in new land. Vespucci was the first one to realize it. He has another route from 1501 to 1502, 1503 to 1504, where he goes from Spain to Brazil, again, mapping the area and seeing exactly what this new world really looks like. All right, and then we've got Hernan Cortez. Now, Cortez, from 1518 to 1521, he starts from Cuba, which had been owned by the Spanish, and he goes to Mexico. He ends up from there having some interactions with the Aztec people. The Aztec was a great empire that existed at that point. Now, he didn't have any luck defeating the Aztecs, but he ends up continuing on his journey, working his way back around, and the second time around he actually defeats the Aztec Empire. He conquers them for their wealth. So who were the Aztecs? They were a civilization, a huge empire down in modern-day Mexico that was very, very powerful. So you can see the boundaries of their territory down here. They were very powerful. And they did something called demand tribute to the people around them. Now, this is Montezuma. Montezuma was the leader of the Aztecs. And Montezuma would demand tribute from the people that were living around the Aztec borders. Basically, they had to bring him supplies and riches and people for human sacrifice in order to, in return, receive protection from him and his empire. Well, I guess what goes around comes around, because what did Cortez do to him? He, after being welcomed by Montezuma, he turned around and conquered Montezuma and ended up demanding tribute from the Aztec people to the Spaniards. So in other words, now it's your turn to give us stuff for protection. So Cortez was not very nice to the Aztec, and he set out to conquer them. That was the whole point. Gain wealth, conquer the Aztecs, and he did both. All right, Balboa. Vasco Núñez de Balboa. He actually, in 1513, he started in Panama, but he worked his way across to the Pacific Ocean. He wasn't trying to get to the Pacific. He didn't realize he was going to the Pacific, but he did. His goal was to seek gold and other riches. He had heard of a great empire that lay to the south, probably talking about the Inca. So he really was trying to gain the wealth from conquering other people. He was not necessarily trying to find a whole new ocean. He just happened to have done that. Then you've got Francisco Pizarro, who actually had traveled with with Balboa. In fact, Balboa is said to have seen the Pacific Ocean first, which is why he gets the credit, but Pizarro was there under his command. And he ended up taking things a step further. He ended up attacking the people down below, down in South America, the Inca. Now, the leader of the Inca was Atahualpa. You can see Machu Picchu, which is beautiful, beautiful city of the Incan Empire. And the Inca were actually defeated by Francisco Pizarro. He went down from Panama, which was Spanish territory, to South America, and he conquered the Inca, which was exactly his goal. He wanted to gain their riches, so he did. Next up, we've got Ponce de Leon. Some people think he was looking for the legendary Fountain of Youth, although claims of the Fountain of Youth really didn't come up in his writings until after his voyage. So some people think that he wasn't really going to Florida, which is where he went, to find the Fountain of Youth, but some people thought so. And the fact of the matter is, it sounds like a really great source of wealth. I mean, if you control a water source that can keep you young and make you immortal, make you live forever, then, well, who wouldn't want to have control of that? So whether or not it was true, that was one of the legends, is that that's what Ponce de Leon was searching for. He was actually going to Bimini. Bimini, which is an island right here, is the place where the Fountain of Youth was supposed to have existed. Now, he kind of overshot the mark here. He left in 1513, he left from Puerto Rico, which was Spanish, and he went to Florida. He established St. Augustine. St. Augustine is actually the oldest settlement in the Americas. Older than any of the British settlements, older than any of the French settlements. It is the oldest established settlement in the Americas, and it was because Ponce de Leon went there in 1513. In fact, a couple of years ago, we had the 500-year anniversary of St. Augustine. Now, he continued on from St. Augustine. Again, the goal was to find the Fountain of Youth, definitely to find wealth. And he continued to search around the area of Florida before going back to Spanish-held islands. So again, he explored, he was looking for wealth, he was looking for riches, he was looking for possibly the Fountain of Youth, and that was the goal of Ponce de Leon. Now, Alvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca, that's a mouthful, but de Vaca was actually with this guy, Pamphilio de Narvaez, and they actually left Cuba in 1528. And they went from Puerto Rico, I should say, which was Spanish-held territory, to Southwest territory and the U.S., Southwest U.S. and Mexico. Now, they get here, there's like 150, 200 guys. They get here, and the person driving the ship basically drove off without them. So now they're trapped, they're stuck here for a while. They end up making little rafts, basically. They make 5 rafts so that they can try to make it to another Spanish territory. So they make these rafts, and they somehow end up traveling this way. They get to Galveston, Texas, but only 2 of the rafts survive, and Pamphilio de Narvaez was not one of the survivors. So at this point, de Vaca ends up in control of the rest of the expedition that eventually leads them to Mexico City. But it was a 12-year journey. Once they left, Puerto Rico and then eventually Cuba, to go to Florida, to be stranded there, to then move on to Galveston, to lose the majority of the people that they traveled with, to then journey all the way around Mexico back to Mexico City, which was a Spanish settlement at this point. That finally gave them, after 12 years, contact with other Spanish civilizations. That was a pretty big deal. Incidentally, de Vaca was outraged by the way the Spanish had been treating the Native American people, and he went back to Spain and really fought for the rights of Native Americans and was really shut down and put in his place because of it. The rest of the Spanish didn't want to hear it, but he was the one guy kind of standing up for Native American rights at this point. All right, De Soto. So in 1538 to 1542, De Soto goes from Cuba, Spanish-held territory, all around Florida and the southwest U.S. His goal was to conquer Florida from the Native Americans and to gain wealth, and he did just that. Not so much the wealth part, he got some wealth, but he conquered Spain. And again, he's one of the people that de Vaca was offended by, that he didn't like the way that people were being treated by conquistadors such as De Soto. Then we've got Coronado. Now, Francisco Vázquez de Coronado, he left Mexico in 1939, which was Spanish-held, and he went throughout the southwestern United States, all the way up, down, and around. What was he looking for? He was looking for the legendary seven cities of Cibola. I know it looks like Cabola, it's Cibola, which was, there was legend of these seven cities that were made of gold. And he went to find them because, well, what better wealth are you going to get than finding cities literally made of gold? Did they find it? No. Did they think it existed? Yes. Some people still think it exists. In fact, if you ever see the movie National Treasure 2, the thing that they're looking for in that movie is the seven cities of Cibola. So it's this legend that's never really died out, but that Coronado was searching for throughout the southwestern U.S. And those are some of the major Spanish conquistadors.